Yes, my hair is blonde. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Music Guide. This is episode 13, and I thought today it would be fun to go over my 5 biggest mistakes slash misconceptions about recording in the studio, or anywhere really. This is sort of for both larger scale studios and small studios. It more just depends on how much you know. And these are sort of more geared towards beginners slash intermediates that you might not know small little details like I did. So let's just get started. Number 5. My number 5 is great gear equals great music. No, that's not how it works. Yes, the greats have amazing gear, they do, but they're the greats for a reason. They've worked their way up to that level, and a lot of them have worked through the eras of tape, which back then, honestly, the gear was great, but actually recording to tape itself, it was a complete nightmare. We are a lot better off now in our home studios than they would have been with tape. We can do so much more. So your gear is no excuse. As long as you can get good clean signal into your computer to mix, you're fine. You should be able to make something out of that. And it is more about taking what you have and doing the most with that, and then upgrading, doing the most with that, upgrading again. And then when you actually do have a big setup, you actually know how to use it effectively and use it in ways that are creative and solve problems effectively. So don't think that you need to go and get the best gear when you're just starting out. Just get what you can and work with that and learn, and then work your way up from there. Number 4, not spending enough time on the recording and miking phase. So when you are recording, you want to make sure that all your instruments are tuned, that you know the parts, and that you're making it in a way that works with the song you're doing. So it's hard to explain what to do because every song is different. Whatever you're doing is different. But just take note of the room you're in. Know what ways to try and eliminate as much of the room as you can if your room doesn't sound great. If it does sound great, use that to your advantage and mic your instrument up in a way that takes advantage of that. And also mic it up and put it in the right area on the instrument. If you want a certain tonality, you need to know your instrument and know where to put the microphone. So all of that stuff has a massive impact on your later on mix. And not everything can be fixed in the mix and in post, especially things that are out of tune. If you're playing a chord that's out of tune, nothing is really going to do anything about that. You just need to re-record it. So just take care in all of that there, and try not to just try not to skimp on it. Don't rush through it. Really spend time on it. The more time you spend on each phase, the better the end product will be. Number 3, not utilizing parallel compression in your drum bus, or any bus in particular, but drums particularly for me is a big deal when it comes to compression on the bus. By the bus I mean the track that all of your elements are going into. So your snare mics, your kick drum mic, your hi-hat mic, your overheads, all going into one track, and that is your bus. A bus can be any of those elements, but I mean your master bus, your main bus. Parallel compression, if you don't know, is when you have a compressed signal and then you mix that in parallel to a clean unprocessed signal. The reason why I tell you to do this is that a lot of the time you'll compress the drums to make them more aggressive, and give them more energy, because you're sort of ramping them up, pulling them all together and gluing them all together, and it makes them sound bigger. But the thing is, if you go too far and you crush them, you may get that energy that you want, but it'll not sound great on its own, and a lot of times it won't sound great mixed in with those individual elements. But a good way to get by this is to use parallel compression. That's mixing the super compressed process signal with the dry unprocessed signal. And there's multiple ways to do this. The easiest way is to get a compressor that has a mix knob on it, and then you can mix between the dry signal and the compressed signal. Another great way to do this here is to either duplicate the track and compress that and then just mix them together, or use a send, which brings me to number 2, utilizing sends. I don't think enough people do. The tracks themselves, they have inputs on them that you can add effects to, and those are great. I would use them for my EQs and most of the time my compressions, unless I'm, like I said, doing parallel compression. But when it comes to maybe time-based effects, delays, reverbs and things like that, I do prefer to use sends for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is when you send, you're basically sending the signal from one track to a secondary track that has a reverb or something on it. This allows you to basically just have a track on its own that's just for the reverb itself. And that means that you can EQ the reverb, compress the reverb, do whatever you want to it, or whatever effect you're planning to use. But I'm just using reverb as an example. But it allows you to do whatever you want to that as if it's its own instrument. And it also allows you to mix more finely. And another reason I like to do that, to do it as a send, is that you can send multiple different sources to one send. So say you have multiple different acoustic guitars and you want them to all sound like they're in the same room. Great way to do that is to send them all to one send and put one reverb to control all of them, and that makes it sound like they're all in one room, and it glues them together a little bit better. But I like doing it for that kind of fine control. So yeah, use your sends. Don't be afraid of using too many. Just do whatever you're comfortable with, but sends are a awesome way of getting fine control out of your mix and out of your effects. And finally, number one, not taking risks. So a lot of the times you're there recording and you try and be super precise and super controlled, and that's great. It's great. You've practiced your part, and now you want to just do it exactly the way you practiced it. That's great. But I've mentioned this in my recording vocals video. It's always good to do a couple of takes at the end where you just go nuts and just try a bunch of different stuff. Because the thing is, we're not using tape anymore. You're not wasting tape when you're recording multiple. You're not wasting a thing. You can just delete it and try again. So don't think that you can't just go nuts at the end and try something different, because best case scenario, you get something amazing out of it. Worst case scenario, you get mostly unusable stuff, but you can even take some of those elements and affect them or do interesting stuff with them and almost use them as like a sample. So yeah, just, you never know what you can get, so just try and take risks and do interesting things. But yeah guys, that's me. I hope these helped you. If you think of anything that you want to say, just leave a comment below. It should help me out a lot if I've never heard of it before, and obviously it'll help anyone who's watching out too. So if you want to say something, like I said, leave a comment. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe if you have the time. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Subscribe before the video is over. Click over there if you want to see more, especially if you like music stuff.